Welcome to Creature Guy Live Daily News. My name is Ethan. Let me know your thoughts about the different species of prehistoric animals in the chat, and let's get into the first article. So, from Sci News, paleontologist describes new genus of mosasaurs, Nathomor, Nathomortis. Nathomortis statmani, the only species of the newly described mosasaur genus, swam in the seas of North America between 79 and 81 million years ago. So this is around the time when the massive western interior sea would have cut North America in half. And it was even more so as you would head further back in time to about 90 million years ago. So a major amount of central Canada as well as the central United States would not have been inhabited by different species of dinosaurs and instead would contain a wide variety of different species of marine reptiles, such as the long necked plesiosaurs. It was around the time that the different species of ichthyosaurs would have gone extinct. So, a group of marine reptiles that would have flourished during the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the first 50 million years of the Cretaceous period. And then also, the mosasaurs would come along. Well, if this is it, and wow, they've already got a skeletal mount of it up, at least when it was discovered. Um, this is a very, like, it's a very well-built sort of skull structure. Very yeah,
Its eye looks funny.
yeah, very large eye sockets too. I'm wondering if this animal possibly would have been nocturnal, so being having a very good sense of night vision. The rest of its body, however, doesn't seem to have that build that I would expect. Actually seems to have quite short fins compared to its body size, or at least in this case, feet, which basically it had aquatic feet. So the partial skull and skeleton of Nathomorti stadmani was discovered in the Mancos Shale of Delta County in western Colorado in 1975. Oh, okay, so this isn't exactly new. I'm wondering if the skeletal mount was actually thought to be another genus and species of mosasaur, and that got disputed over further analyses of the overall morphology or build of the animal, which tends to happen in many different instances with really different species of dinosaurs, but it has also occurred with different types of marine reptiles. In 1999, the specimen was assigned to the genus Prognathodon. Here we go. So my guess was correct. This animal was originally thought to be some species of Prognathodon, which we have a number of species from the Prognathodon mosasaur genus. And also looking at the robust skull of the animal, it makes sense as to why it would be named Prognathodon, considering Prognathodon is regarded as being one of the more heavily built mosasaur species. So likely going after different prey items like more heavily armored ammonites in the region, different species of even plesiosaurs. Some we actually have evidence that certain plesiosaurs would have been armored and named Prognathodon stadsmani. So okay, it was known as Prognathodon for over 20 years. So in a new study,
Lulu says hi.
oh, welcome aboard Theropod. Yeah, we're going over a new species of mosasaur that has been discovered and originally thought to be another genus for over 20 years. So, in a new study, Dr. Joshua Lively from the Jackson School of Geosciences at the University of Texas at Austin examined the original specimen and the recently uncovered portions of the mosasaur's skull roof, jaw, and brain case. It also seems to be that certain species of mosasaurs, which it does make sense for this to have occurred, would have had different sized brains. Now, also when it comes to at least the um, not the frontal cortex, so an area for thinking, but specifically the olfactory nerve of the brain, which is used for sense of smell, which is fairly large in different species of carnivorous theropod dinosaurs, such as T Rex. But some would have actually have been um, possibly of decent size for the mosasaurs in some cases. He determined the fossils are not closely related to other species of the genus Prognathodon and needs to be renamed. The new name, Nathomortis, is derived from Greek and Latin words for jaws of death. Interesting. It's almost like something you would think like Megalodon would have been given, but like his name already. So the giant fish of the Pliocene, Atlantic, Pacific, Indian Oceans. In fact, they have been found, or at least megalodon teeth have been found in, or at least along different capes or seas around the world. It was a very successful species of shark. Okay, let's see. Who should we bring up? Probably Prognathodon itself. Unless maybe we should go over to Globidens. We might have brought up a Prognathodon not too long ago. Yeah, let's go with Globidens. So Globidens. This is also, well, really, when looking at the mosasaur species, they seem to have only inhabited the late Cretaceous and not even the late Cretaceous in general. At least it seems to be that they first evolved somewhere around 90 to 95 million years ago. Yes, here he is. In many cases, Globidens tends to be reconstructed as having a very stern sort of a look, but it's not even just serious. He really seems to be agitated at something, like as if he's been trying to search for an ammonite, his or a specific ammonite, for several years, and he still can't get it. Ammonites probably weren't too hard of prey items to tackle. It's really what would deter the mosasaurs in some cases, along with other marine reptiles, is that like modern day squid today, or even octopi, which they are distant relatives of, a bit more closer to the squids, is that they will release very likely a toxic ink to help repel predators. This is a very good reconstruction of a mosasaur and specifically a globidens going after certain species of ammonite. There were many, like thousands of different species of ammonites dating all the way to the late Devonian, not the late, yeah, late Devonian period.
I found an old one.
Double check that.
Someone took a
At least over 370 million years ago. This is okay. I think something that tends to be left out when it comes to different ammonites is that they're usually seen as the more um, like the patterned or circular type shells. And no, they did not change their shells throughout their life, like with certain species of crabs today, and also not closely related to those types of shellfish. But what we see with the ammonites is that we have found several different species that also have very long shells as well, still ending in a bit of a curl, some a bit more straight as well, almost like the orthocones back in the Ordovician and Silurian periods between 420 to about 500 million years ago. And that was before any species of dinosaurs, amphibians, reptiles even existed, even before the sharks in some cases. Sharks were also coexisting with the mosasaurs back in the Cretaceous, but not necessarily to the large sizes of the later megalodon. However, in the early Cretaceous, does seem to be evidence of a 30-foot long or a 9 meter, 4 tons possibly species of shark roaming certain areas, possibly coexisting with certain species of pliosaurs. So the early predecessors of mosasaurs in at least a ecological apex predator aspect. They weren't technically the predecessors to the mosasaurs. Mosasaurs seem to have evolved from smaller lizards on land, and like one being Dallosaurus, also found adjacent to Dallas, Texas. Um, Mosasaurs in general tend to, at least, they tend to be more associated with longer and more narrow jaw structures, or at least skull builds. But at least with these types of species like globidens, they're much more squarish, at least in shape. And also indicating, at least also when looking at their teeth tend to be a bit wider compared to other species such as Mosasaurus or genre. Tylosaurus, Pliodocarpus.
these look different.
Oh, yeah. Is this that specific species? It has very, roundish, almost sort of, tooth structures. I'm guessing the one in front grabbed like a turtle? Certainly possible. Oh, yeah, and there's birds in the picture. Birds are flourishing during the Cretaceous period. They still have competition with the pterosaurs, but they occupy different niches. Pterosaurs most likely did not really create nests in the sense that birds could. Even by the early Cretaceous, you could even say the late Jurassic. But By 130 million years ago, back in the early Cretaceous, they were doing quite well. There seems to be like two or three different groups of birds that existed during the Cretaceous period. And then once the other dinosaurs or the non avian dinosaurs would go extinct around 66 million years ago, and they would branch off into a wide variety of different groups. But at least during the Cretaceous period, and this is also probably somewhere around 75 million years ago, so a bit later into the Cretaceous, than the new taxonomical discovery, you could say, because it was already discovered back in the 70s. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's even showing like a bottom part of the jaw here. I think two jaw sets. Those are really good preservations of the skull. Now, mosasaurs have been found not just over in different parts of northern Africa, especially Morocco is definitely a haven for different species of mosasaurs, but even different parts of Australia, certain marine deposits over in Asia. It popped up over, I think, in smaller fragments in Antarctica, but also in North America, especially over in different parts of the Midwest such as Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. You could include Texas onto there, possibly even South Dakota. And I believe Globidens might have been one of the species of mosasaurs reaching also somewhere between 7.5 to a little over 9 meters in length, or between like 25 to 30 feet. Okay, let's head back to the article. So it was inspired by the incredibly large jaws of this species, which measure 1.2 meters or 4 feet in length. That's not small for a mosasaur in general. It's not the largest species or the largest skull that we have discovered. If you're looking at different species of mosasaur specifically, or even tylosaurs, they can reach beyond 5 feet or a little over 1.4 meters. An interesting feature of the mosasaur's jaws is a large depression on their outer surface, similar to that seen in modern lizards, such as the colored lizard, Crotaphytus colaris. Uh, I'm wondering what it's referring to by bit of a depression. Can we look up the colored lizard real quick? Wondering what specifically this animal looks like. 'Cause I don't think I've ever heard of this lizard being compared with, well, any species of marine reptile. The feature is indicative of large jaw muscles that equip the marine reptile with a formidable bite force. What sets this animal apart from other mosasaurs are features of the quadrate, a bone in the jaw joint that also forms a portion of the ear canal in Nathor mortis. Actually, I think this is reminding me of a certain species of pterosaur named Nothosaurus, which I believe inhabited the early Cretaceous. Whoa! Okay, so this is him. Have seen this lizard before, but I haven't taken really a deep depth into his overall ecology, behavior, who he's specifically related to in the reptile family. But that is interesting. Usually, when you're talking about different species of mosasaurs, crocodile monitors or monitor lizards might pop up, maybe even occasionally Komodo dragons. But these specific lizards, are they island lizards too? Um, but besides that, hmm. I'm just trying to guess at what's or see what specifically they're referring to by the depression on the mosasaur that resembles him. I mean, this this species of lizard with this roundish or just a very dull, squarish of a head, I just find quite surprising that they compared it with. Not a close relative of the dinosaurs, definitely. Really, no species of lizard is. Just the different species of modern day crocodilians and the birds. About when focusing on reptiles, the crocodilians. Okay. Uh, huh. I mean, I like the color of this guy. I'm guessing he's one of those species of lizards that makes that push up sort of a display to help deter other rival males, and certain parts of the year attract females.
Looks
I'm
like he has a
wondering if he
big
can.
fat head.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he can change color. Yeah, he reminds me of another species of lizard. Tends to be quite lazy. Um, It's not hitting me what that species is, but it doesn't really have a magnificent sort of a coloration. Usually like a bit of a dull brown. In Nathromortis, this bone exhibits a suite of characteristics that are transitional from earlier mosasaurs like Clydastes. Oh, yeah, this guy. And later mosasaurs like Prognathodon. We now know Nathromortis swam in the seas of Colorado between 79 and 81 million years ago. Okay, I guess I do forget sometimes that Colorado, it's probably referring to also eastern Colorado, which is almost like western Kansas to an extent when looking at the ecology, but also different fossil formations or fossil basins in the region as well. So it's um, I guess for marine reptiles, definitely a fossil haven compared to Western Colorado, which, depending on where you were, especially in different areas of the northwestern part of the state, like adjacent to Grand Junction or Dinosaur National Monument, you will come into contact with late Jurassic species of animals. In other parts, you might actually head much further in time into different parts of the Ice Age or the Pleistocene epoch. But focusing on the dinosaurs, you'll find different species like Allosaurus, Stegosaurus. Also adjacent to it's not just over there. It's just like it's a wide variety of teeth tend to be found in the region. But even adjacent to like Morrison or Denver, Colorado, possibly what's just Fort Collins. And we find different Stegosaurus remains, Stegosaur footprints. Who else? Possibly even Torvosaurus in the region and Camptosaurus. Oh, Apatosaurus as well. Let's see. Or at least 3.5 million years before any species of Prognathodon. So when referring to the Nathomortis, that's a long time. You know, a lot in evolution can occur during that period. Oh, that was it. Let's actually bring up Clydastes. Clydastes. So with Clydastes, this
What
animal
which
does.
one is it? Or is that a mother?
Oh yeah, it's a mother giving birth to her young. It does seem to be, at least with most species of mosasaurs, there was a discovery over in, I believe, some marine sediments adjacent to possibly South America, or at least like the upper Antarctic Ocean region, of like a very soft shelled egg, possibly belonging to some species of mosasaur from the Cretaceous period. But all other like, and now at least when looking at the mosasaurs mobility and anatomy in general, it doesn't seem that this creature, even the family in general, had the ability to come onto land to lay their eggs. That was an older theory, but well, and also seemed to be that way for pretty much all species of marine reptiles. The ichthyosaurs, the different species of plesiosaurs, pliosaurs were thought to have come onto land, especially during the 1800s, the early to mid 1900s, to lay their eggs. And they simply do not have the capacity or physical capacity to move around efficiently on land and would most likely either become beached or just suffocate under their own weight. So they would have given live birth. Same thing for different species of the cryptoclidid plesiosaurs of the Jurassic. I don't believe this specific species of sea turtle was around at this point. Probably wouldn't evolve until much later into the Cenozoic era. There were a handful of different species and even certain groups of sea turtles that were related to today's like leatherbacks, loggerhead sea turtles, which is possibly what this species might be that mosasaur is being portrayed to feed on. But it likely would have come into contact with much larger species, like related to the Archelon. I mean, this could occur with smaller mosasaur individuals where certain species of shark, like even the Cretoxyrhina, might have um, simply surprised them and shocked them out of the water, or stunning them in this case. This might be a Clydastes mosasaur skull, very narrow. I mean, it's almost like you're looking at the skull of like a megaraptor to an extent. I mean, it's not a dinosaur, but it does have a very similar sort of build. You could even say certain Spinosaurs to an extent. It doesn't necessarily have that
I'm
curve.
not sure that's it because I'm seeing some other ones with that
More
look the
squarish.
same. No, look the same, but they're calling it something else.
Well, I guess you could stick up one of those pictures. I wonder if it's a close relative that they might be referring to, considering in many cases with the different species of mosasaurs, you can have many like different species
It
still
is.
belonging to the same family, subfamily.
That the face is thin on it, so maybe
Yeah,
it is.
this is probably him. Clydastes might be a longer species of mosasaur, like reaching over 35 feet or pushing around 11 meters. But it definitely has less of like that heavy sort of a look compared to Prognathodon or Globidens. It's more of like a sleek
It is.
structure. Even the fins are rather short compared to its length. Yep, here he is, or she is. Also much thinner teeth, at least compared to Globidens, where they're almost like a bit of a um at least structured like a some sort of a seashell, but at the same time, um trying to think like a bit of a clam to an extent. I'm just thinking of the overall shape description, whereas these look more steak knife like. So definitely very efficient in penetrating the different ammonite species that they fed on. At least making short work of the inside ammonite itself, which wouldn't really need like much of a bite force in general because it's a very soft tissue. But also even hunting different species of plesiosaurs within the region and going after different species of sharks and also some of the earliest marine species of turtle.
Maybe he's
Um,
just giving the turtle a ride.
it's certainly possible. Yeah, but highly unlikely, and he's probably trying to chomp through, especially this individual. That species of turtle. Now, there were other turtle-like reptiles that existed back into the Triassic period, but they were very distantly related to modern-day sea turtles and even the turtles that would exist later on to the Cretaceous, like over 230 million years ago in the Triassic. Oh yeah, this is a very. I think it's the Globidens, though. I wonder what he's feeding on. Something hard. Yeah, but very square shape. I mean, I guess now I think I understand where they're getting um, the lizard description from or similarity because when you look at his face, not just the tongue sticking out, which is a theory that mosasaurs might have stuck their tongue out to help smell the environment around them. So maybe there was like a plesiosaur bleeding in the water somewhere. They could track it down. Another species of mosasaur. But yeah, it definitely has a very lizard-like look. I'm wondering whether maybe the depression's supposed to be towards the center of the top of the head. That might be what
There's
they're
something
referring
in the
to.
mouth.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. It's definitely not some ammonites. Maybe it's a bone of some sort. I mean, their teeth are definitely capable of cracking through um like different parts of the plesiosaur's body, but that doesn't seem like reptile-like unless they were feeding on some turtle and that happens to be part of his shell. Okay. Well, that was interesting. Let's see. So from Sci News, membrane winged dinosaurs, Yi and Ambopteryx were poor gliders. I believe Yi is like some relative of the Microraptor lineage of carnivorous theropods. So we're talking about animals that only weigh maybe a few pounds or a couple kilograms at most. Yep, it's him. Ichi and Ambopteryx lungi brachium are two bizarre scanzoropterid theropods. Okay. No, I mean, they are probably related to the Microraptorids, but belong to likely a different lineage of the Coelurosaurs, which are also the group of theropod dinosaurs that would contain the different species of Tyrannosaurs, different species of Megaraptorids, the birds, and the raptors of the Dromaeosaurs that lived in what is now China about 160 million years ago during the late Jurassic epoch. They had skin stretched between elongate fingers that form a potential membranous wing. Yeah, these are a very strange lineage of theropod dinosaurs to have existed. during the Mesozoic era. They have like a more bat like sort of a build, and despite not being mammals. Most theropods were ground-loving carnivores, but Ichi and Ambopteryx longi brachium were at home in the trees and lived on a diet of insects, seeds, and other plants. According to a new study published in the journal iScience, Ichi and Ambopteryx longi brachium struggled to fly and only managing to glide clumsily between the trees where they lived. Unable to compete with other tree dwelling dinosaurs and early birds that went extinct after just a few million years. Whoa, wow. So that's interesting. I'm trying to think of what other tree dwelling dinosaurs. The Microraptorids, I mean, by what they're suggesting, they haven't even evolved yet. They're not going to appear until later into the Cretaceous. And the birds won't evolve for another 10 million years. So this is a really big mystery. I'm trying to think. Well, okay. At this point in the Jurassic, you did have other types of theropods, especially certain species like Epidezipteryx, but I would assume he's not going to be much of really competition for these animals. But let's take a look. Oh, right. Yeah, wow. He does still have a more pterosaur, in a sense, sort of a look to okay, it's mixed. It's like something between a bird, a bat, and a pterosaur. I'd say more bird features. Even looking at the beak, it's interesting. It almost is like a dryasaurid or some smaller ornithopod sort of a build, at least along his skull structure, especially with that beak at the front. Nothing like a pterosaur, but also very unlike the beaks or bills that you would see on different species of even early birds. But definitely look at the several fingers that are aligned along the end of his or along his wing. That is quite strange. Yeah, and his tail feathers look similar to different species of birds today. And I think some might assume that that's just a theory as to how his feathers would look. No, we do have evidence of different species of early birds back in the Cretaceous. And I guess at this point, even though he's not a true bird, this type of theropod that had like just maybe three or four specific feathers protruding from their tail. So it's very likely that we have a specimen containing those feathers of this animal too. Okay, let's see what else is going on here. Seems to be in like a blizzard or whatever that is. Maybe it's like a fire. I mean, they would have experienced probably forest fires more likely during the late Jurassic compared to any really winter storms. It was one of the warmest times during the Mesozoic era at this point. So once birds got into the air, these two species were so poorly capable of being in the air that they just got squeezed out. Said first author Dr. Thomas D. Sechai, a researcher in the Department of Biology at Mount Marty University. Maybe you can survive a few million years underperforming, but you have predators from the competition from the bottom, and even some mammals adding into that, squeezing them out until they disappeared. Well, that's a long time to be underperforming. I'd say if he's not really able to compete with any of these other animals and he's still around, he's doing pretty well. Usually meaning he's not underperforming. Okay, let's bring up that other species of theropod, the Epidozipteryx. Let's see. EPID, EX, EPT. Oh, popped up. This is one of the species of small theropod dinosaurs that we have discovered with evidence of those specific long, thin feathers protruding from the animal. I am wondering if he's a close relative of possibly Ichi and the Ambopteryx. This seems to be maybe a more recent sort of a model. It's not bad. I think it looks really good. Yep, there's the evidence right there. All four feathers, and even along the core of his body. That's really good to see. Even along the pelvis region. Now the legs are a bit of a mystery. He might have still have had a light feathered coating in that region. It's possible they might have been used for insulation, but very likely maybe just for also display as well.
Did you catch it
Um,
yet?
yeah, he's a dog. He's chewing on his or a lion, I guess.
No. Look what he's holding it with. And now look down a little.
He also has two arms.
Yeah.
Well, also looking at the skull of this animal, it's very mixed. First of all, it has one arm that seems to resemble more of a dromaeosaur, at least the arm in the front, including the one on the side. And dromaeosaurs haven't evolved yet. Then there's more like a young T Rex or a young Tyrannosaurus, sort of an arm, at least somewhat holding the feather. And his skull really looks unlike any species of theropod dinosaur, even when they were younger. He's given canines. Like he's a saber-toothed theropod, which we don't really have any evidence of. Sometimes Ceratosaurus likes to, make himself out to be a saber tooth, but he's not. Yeah, he's got a lot of problems.
Wait a minute.
Even his legs. Oh, whoa. Um, okay, well, I mean, it's an interesting sort of a drawing, but this might be a bit too far for this animal. It is interesting, at least when it comes to the fluff or the feather accumulation. It's a bit doesn't really match with like the different parts of the body, but it's okay. It is interesting. They had it stop at like the top of the shin.
I have one from a horror movie.
Yep. Wow. Looks familiar. I'm wondering if maybe this came from one of possibly like Dr. Bacher's books, but Robert T. Bacher, the paleontologist, brought back the Reverend Edward Hitchcock's theory that dinosaurs were not these slow, unintelligent, cold-blooded reptiles, but in fact, very intelligent, quick, and warm-blooded, and also their own lineage of warm-blooded archosaurs. So let's see. Yeah, but that just, reminded me of certain other illustrations, but still looked a bit unlike, usual Epizipteryx, unless it was just before further analysis was done on the skull, and now we have a more of a roundish or circular shaped skull. I don't mind this look of Epizipteryx. In fact, he looks very efficient. At least there have been other reconstructions where it seems kind of limited in what he can do. I think this actually looks really good. He almost has like a um dromaeosaur sort of a look despite not being a dromaeosaur. Well, here's another one. Yeah, so the extended finger, it's almost like with what you see on the eyes of Madagascar. Yep, 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 sure it is. But which also use their extended finger or digit to extract larvae or different insects from tree bark. So it would likely have done the same thing. I mean, it's kind of interesting. You have both mammal and a small species of theropod dinosaur 160 million years apart, or probably 158 to 160 million years, that contained an almost exact same mutation.
Why does it look like it has fishing teeth?
This is also something that you would see in certain other species of, well, larger dinosaurs compared to its size. This animal probably only weighs somewhere between a few ounces and maybe a pound, or at most like zero point 0.4 kilograms. But it was likely just feeding on different species of insects. There were certain other dinosaurs probably weighing in at 30 to 40 pounds or a little over like 12 kilograms, like Machikosaurus, that had a somewhat similar sort of a jaw structure. But that animal is
They all
also
look
from
psychotic.
Madagascar, but around 68 million years ago. What?
They all look psychotic.
Yeah, they do. I think a wide variety of birds can have that sort of appearance. Oh, well, yeah, he's zeroing in on one of the larvae. It's like, you're killing my forest.
Uh,
Yeah. At least when it comes to the larvae in this instance. I mean, they might have been beneficial to the trees somewhat, but it can vary. I would assume that they're probably only inhabiting maybe certain sick trees or decomposing ones. But it seems to be that this species was primarily an insectivore. This was also around 155 to 160 million years ago over in China. So, also coexisting with certain species of possibly early carcharodontosaurs and megalosaurs within the region. There are also certain sauropods too, like the Mamenchosaurids. So I'm talking about sauropods that could reach well over 90 feet in length, pushing over 29 meters. Curious about Ichi and Ambopteryx brachium fly. Oh, how they fly. Dr. Desechai and colleagues scanned fossils using laser stimulated fluorescence, a technique that uses laser light to pick up soft tissue details that can't be seen with standard white light. They then used mathematical models to predict how these dinosaurs might have flown, testing many different variables like weight, wingspan, and muscle placement. They really can't do powered flight. You have to give them extremely generous assumptions in how they can flap their wings. Well, yeah, that's also a big mystery as to possibly how this animal and its relatives would have glided. Obviously, like the Eptozipteryx can't. But this might be a bit more similar to the later different species of Microraptorids like Microraptor, Sinornithosaurus. And it seems that those animals had the ability to glide. So the question is also with the type of membrane that it has, at least I would assume that it could. Powered flight isn't going to occur for another 10 million years in the dinosaur lineage. Now, you already had the different species of pterosaurs flying, like different species of rhamphorhynchids, which are already pretty successful at around this point. But there are also slightly larger species of pterosaurs too. You basically have to model them as the biggest bat, make them the lightest weight, make them flap as fast as a really fast bird, and give them muscles higher than they were likely to have had to cross that threshold.
But wait a minute, bats don't have to flap that fast.
Yeah, I can also vary on the species, but obviously, I mean, there's the hummingbird. There's also several different species of hummingbird, but um, it's not just him. I mean, there are other species. There are a number of species of birds that flap faster than the different thousand species of bats. So they could glide. Oh, here we go. But even their gliding wasn't great. Oh, come on. I was hoping, oh, I could get them from tree to tree, unless that's what they mean. And if a sauropod happens to push a tree down,
How
then
do
it's
they
got a
know
problem.
this?
Certain biomechanics on the wings. It's kind of like with the Microraptorids.
So basically, a squirrel was better at moving from tree to tree.
It could be. We did also have likely gliding. We had gliding mammals back in the early Cretaceous. It seems like certain earlier species of marsupials. I'm trying to remember what species of sauropod also coexisted with the species I'm thinking of. I think there were also possibly.
Didn't you
Um,
do something on this guy a while back? Or am I just thinking he looks similar?
yeah, I think he was found possibly a few years earlier. I think this might be Ichi. Also being mostly insectivorous. Yeah, it's probably a decent amount of gliding. So while gliding is not an efficient form of flight, since it can only be done if the animal has already climbed to a high point, it did help Ichi and Ambopteryx lungi brachium stay out of danger while they were still alive. If an animal needs to travel long distances for whatever reason, gliding costs a bit more energy at the start, but it's faster. It can also be used as an escape hatch. I mean, there were definitely probably many instances when it was also lower to the ground. Pterosaurs were probably not that big of a threat at this point. Back in the Triassic, the Jurassic periods, most species of pterosaurs were just feeding on different species of insects, maybe smaller species of fish. See who else? Maybe they scavenged occasionally or feeding on smaller reptiles or amphibians, but they're not really going after anything like beyond a small morsel, sort of a animal size. So it's not a great thing to do, but sometimes it's a choice between losing a bit of energy and being eaten. Once they were put under pressure, they just lost their space. They couldn't win on the ground. They couldn't win in the air. They were done. Jeez, wow. Um,
Can you feel the love?
yeah, it's not really giving any credit to these guys. Let's see. In fact, let's bring up the giant Mamenchosaurus. Well, okay, yeah, there were certain species of sauropods that were larger, but I mean, compared to him, Mamenchisaurus.
I just meant that you went from these little guys to
I thought we needed somebody large because, well, beforehand we were in the ocean. I didn't even bring up any dinosaurs that were living on land at that time. There were different species, like when referring to the mosasaurs, different species of ceratopsians and kylosaurs on land. Well, interesting. They've got his tail towards the ground. I've seen pictures of this exhibit, but I it seems that they're giving him too short of legs. Like they seem fairly short, even for a diplodocid, which is
wait,
what
so Mamenchasaurid is
it's. Well, there's Mamenchisauridae, which is a family of diplodocid dinosaurs. So they are members of Diplodocodidae, which would also include the diplodocus from late Jurassic North America, or at least different areas of Colorado, Wyoming. The Manchosaurus, however, was roaming different parts of East Asia, especially China is a hotspot for Mamenchosaurus.
well, something's wrong with this one's neck.
It did have one of the longest necks compared to its body size of any species of dinosaur, or of even among the sauropods in general. Not necessarily the longest, but they were approaching it. It's like we have different species of marine reptiles, like the plesiosaurs, that also have very long necks compared to their overall body length. Whereas you could technically say it's a bit shorter for Mamenchosaurus. But these are not bad illustrations. They also would have had some of the smallest heads compared to their body size of any um, other lineages of dinosaurs. But this can also be said for many species of larger sauropods as a whole. You could have certain species of Mamenchosauridae reach over 120 feet in length or pushing well over 38 meters.
Are those legs holding them?
Yeah, I think they might be a bit small. Now, looking at the size of the thighs, and it's possible, but these Mamenchosaurs are definitely given a lot more muscle, which could have been the case. This is probably taking place around 140 million years ago over in China, because towards the bottom you have some of the earliest species of tyrannosaurs existing at this point. So it's likely that these might be the predecessors to T Rex, so either being possibly Guanlong in this instance, which is an 8 foot, 8 to 10 foot long, or 2.5 to 3 meter long theropod, probably weighing in at around 300 pounds or a little over 130 kilograms. And the Mamenchosaurs were herbivores, so they were feeding on different species of conifers within the dense forests of China during the early Cretaceous, or there was even certain species back into the Jurassic over 160 million years ago that would have been feeding in the dense conifer forests in Asia as well. But there are also different floodplains too. Okay, let's head back to the article. So the authors are now looking at the muscles that powered Yi and Ambopteryx lungi brachium to construct an accurate image of these bizarre little creatures. I'm used to working with the earliest birds, and we sort of have an idea of what they looked like already. To work where we're just trying to figure out the possibilities for a weird creature is kind of fun. Okay. That was an odd ending. All right. Well, this was definitely interesting, at least looking at especially Ambopteryx, which I'm wondering is maybe a closer relative to Archaeopteryx itself and not the different species of Microraptorids. Really just due to it having a more bird-like sort of a structure compared to the Microraptorids. Because when you're looking at animals like Microraptor or especially Sinornithosaurus, they tend to be along the range of something like a dromaeosaur, considering they're very closely related to that lineage despite not containing well, actually, they did contain sickle claws, so those specific claws on the feet of pretty much every single species of dromaeosaur. It's just a bit of a debate in some instances with certain Antarctic species like the Imperobator, considering there are certain depictions of the animal not having a sickle claw. Okay, so now let's head forward into the Cenozoic era. So, from the scientificamerican.com, scientists just unleashed an army of 130,000 baby octopuses to fight off a blue crab invasion. Wow. Well, this is new.
They make a cream for that.
I mean, like, is in a dish? Oh. When fully grown, the octopuses that survive could eat up to 4 blue crabs per day in the Mediterranean Sea. Wow. Well, that definitely adds up. Not sure how many babies, though, a blue crab can have at once. So researchers released more than 100,000 octopus paralarvae into the Adriatic Sea to help fight invasive blue crabs. Embattled Mediterranean fisheries and ecosystems may soon be saved by an 8 limbed army. Italian scientists have released 130,000 common octopuses and counting to fight blue crabs that have proliferated in parts of the Mediterranean to the detriment of local species. Well, the allosaurs and brachiosaurs of the late Jurassic of Europe would be proud. These octopuses born in the lab are in their freshly hatched paralarval state and just a few millimeters long, but those that grow up will be fierce predators of the invasive crustaceans. I guess it's also good to see. I'm assuming that they're native to the region. I guess if they're bringing back that species. Though blue crabs are a prized local seafood in the mid Atlantic region of the US, they are invasive species elsewhere. Yeah, it's something that I tend to forget sometimes. The crabs were first spotted in the Mediterranean Sea in the last century, but really began wreaking havoc only around a decade ago when their population surged, posing a threat both to native biodiversity and to the fishing industry. Italy's government has funded efforts to contain and combat their aggressive spread as hundreds of fisheries have closed down across the country's coastline. Ouch. Whoa.
Well, I don't understand. They always have a problem with too much crabbing. Why not just go out and send a bunch of crabbers out?
Um, I guess it's not sought after there. Researchers released the octopus's paralarvae into the Adriatic Sea, Mediterranean's narrow northern arm, to boost natural populations. Under optimal circumstances, a 1 kilogram adult, or weighing about 2.2 pounds, can consume 4 medium sized blue crabs a day. The
Gee.
experts behind the project say, wow, these guys are extremely voracious. Trying to think of who else. This is almost like the type of appetite that starfish have for no. Sea urchins, I think, have for sea stars or starfish. Let's see who else. Wait a second. I'm trying to remember, or am I confusing that for coral? I need to go back over that too. So we are not introducing a new species, but working on strengthening the population of a native species already naturally present in the Adriatic, says Antonio Castellani, an aquaculture research technician at the University of Bologna in Italy, which runs the project together with the Emilia Romagna region's government. Oh, well, here they are at their larvae stage. Um,
Did it say how long it takes them to grow?
no, it didn't. I'm not too familiar with this species. So the project named Octo Blue started in 2024 with a first phase of lab experimentation that included determining how to rear the baby octopuses. This summer, researchers released around 130,000 paralarvae in the Adriatic off the towns of Cesenatico and Riccione, an area hit by the blue crab, and also installed artificial dens to provide additional shelter to the newly arrived cephalopods. Gianluca Serra, a marine ecologist at the University of Palermo in Italy, who is not involved in the project, says that the idea behind the project is powerful. It's great, but it's impossible the impact will be absolutely negligible. Usually, octopuses paralarvae have a mortality rate of around 99.9%. That seems a bit high. that's that's nearly all of them. That's not good. Sarah says, meaning that from thousands of them, only a few individuals will reach adulthood. Um, oh yeah, it just hit me. They're paralarvae. Like you're thinking of full-grown adults. Like it wasn't hitting me at first. Yeah, that's not a lot. Wondering how many they have at once. It's like one of those instances where it's like, oh, okay, they're finally, or certain other scientists are helping like really boost an endangered species.
That's like 100 of them survive.
Yeah, um, not good. This is really concerning now. Castellani just sounds like some goofy experiment almost. Notes that the team chose the common octopus because it is particularly hardy and quick reproducing. Females can produce hundreds of thousands of eggs. So we're supposed to be. I guess what's nice about the 130,000 that they're alive, and you can have it where several eggs just don't hatch with the or at least in the wild in some cases. And because this infusion can help to supplement an existing population, the researchers plan to release more as they produce more paralarvae. Results will be seen in the long term. He stresses that rather than fully examining the invasive crab, this approach will help control the populations in conjunction with other management strategies, such as existing fishing initiatives. Well, this is a bit of a huge question mark at the moment. So, I wonder if something like this has occurred elsewhere, at least with the octopus and crabs. I mean, it's mentioning that full grown, they can feed on four of these crabs, at least medium sized. Okay, well, it's definitely interesting, but quite mysterious. Let's head over to another part of the Cenozoic era. So, from science.org, this odd fish has 30 times as much DNA as humans. I guess that is kind of shocking. A new record for animals. Oh, well, lacking key genes that control selfish bits of DNA. The South American lungfish's genome just grew and grew.
It's a strange way to say something.
Yeah.
Selfish bits of DNA.
I can think nature to an extent cared. Let's see. Especially this guy. One of the four-limbed fish. Like they're literally legs. Like the lungfish decided to evolve and then just stopped. A species of lungfish found in South America has claimed the title of the animal with the biggest genome sequence so far. The DNA of Lepidosiren paradoxa comprises a staggering 91 billion chemical letters or bases, 30 times as many as the human genome, researchers report today in Nature. I guess, yeah, it's very impressive, but why though? I mean, for a lungfish. However, those 91 billion bases of DNA only contain about the same number of genes that humans have. Oh, it's one of these. Okay. Roughly 20,000, with the rest consisting of non coding, perhaps even junk DNA. I don't know what that's supposed to reference. By comparing this genome with those of other lungfishes, the researchers determined that L. paradoxa adds the equivalent of a human genome to its DNA every 10 million years. I guess in the hold on a second, has this animal been around for like at least since the early Cenozoic era, or possibly even to the time of the dinosaurs or the Mesozoic? We do have evidence for lungfishes existing during the Triassic period over 225 million years ago, like over in different parts of North America. Maybe that is the case. And seem to have remained almost unchanged. Like literally they look the same. It is interesting that they survived the dinosaur extinction event and they pretty much stayed with the same build or morphology. So this is the largest genome size reported so far in animals, says Graciela Garcia, an evolutionary geneticist at the Uruguay University of the Republic, who is not involved with this work, but who studied killifish genomes. So this is a species of fish that will like capture like different flies on the surface of the water. which also have a lot of non coding DNA. I am very excited. Sometimes called living fossils, lungfish are air breathing lobe finned fish believed to most closely resemble the most common ancient common ancestors of all vertebrates. It's probably referring to certain species of tetrapods or lobe finned fishes from the Devonian over 380 million years ago. Kind of like Tiktaalik to an extent, but different. So since 2018, Axel Meyer and Manfred Schartl, evolutionary biologists at the Julius Maximilians University of Wurzburg, and their colleagues have worked to decipher the genomes of lungfish from three continents to better understand vertebrate evolution. They first sequenced that of the Australian lungfish, whose fin bones resemble those in our limbs and those of other land animals. They then moved on to African lungfish, whose limb bones are much reduced. Yeah, that's interesting. Why do you have it where certain species of lungfish have longer limbs compared to others? Now they've tackled the South American lungfish, which also has reduced fins and a genome twice the size of its Australian and African cousins. Included in that massive genome are the organism's genes, the instructions for its proteins, written in four different chemical letters called nucleotides or bases, as well as codes for helpful bits of RNA. But the vast majority of L. paradoxa's genome is composed of something else, repetitive stretches called transposable elements that can make copies of themselves and insert those copies back into DNA. About 90% of L. paradoxa's genome consists of these selfish sequences. Um, I'm trying to remember. I think aphids would like a word, because they can make copies of themselves. The researchers find compared with about 40% of the human genome.
They're not the only ones that could do that.
No, there's a wide variety of other species of animals. It's just that it's a single insect. I think it's an insect.
What's that swimming one that's fed to fish?
Um, this
The one in
like you're talking about a crustacean or a fly or
It's a crustacean. It's the one
shrimp.
no, the one they feed to the fish. In the
Like crab. Oh, gosh, what is that? It's just not hitting me at the moment. Okay. So, how did the lungfish's genome become so cluttered with repetitive DNA? Comparing it with other vertebrate genomes revealed its growth goes unchecked because the South America and African lungfishes have lost key genes whose RNA and protein products put the brakes on transposable elements. This must be a huge cost to the animal. All but one of this lungfish's 19 chromosomes is the size of the entire human genome. So it takes a lot of energy to copy that DNA. And the nucleus and cell that encase it must be bigger. Oh, yeah, I guess that is kind of odd. Like, really, what's the benefit in that occurring in the animal? No, it might help with um like preserving certain amounts of nutrients. So, a larger genome can sometimes help an organism adapt to changing conditions. When transposable elements land in or near a gene, they can alter the activity of that gene, which may be beneficial under the right conditions. These shafty bits of DNA genes can even be fodder for new genes for new genes entirely. However, it can also become a sword of Damocles if it is not possible to regulate genes that ensure the viability of the organism. So it's unclear why the fish didn't evolve new ways to control the spread of these so-called jumping genes. Meyer goes too far as to say there are fish that evolution forgot. Yeah, but it's like they really didn't need to change considering they survived several mass extinctions. And it's not just like the end of the Ice Age or the end of the dinosaurs. There were also these several mass extinctions that would have occurred throughout the Cenozoic era or the time of mammals as well as the Mesozoic. So, for at least 252 million years, these lungfish have been around for, but possibly even further back into the Permian period. So, maybe over 300 million years ago. So, L. paradoxus genome is not the biggest of all living things, however. That title was recently bestowed on the New Caledonian fork fern, Mesipteris oblonculate, with its 160 billion bases. Wow. And other plants, such as a rare Japanese shrub named Paris japonica, also have enormous ones. That's specific. But for animals, I would be surprised if there were a larger genome. I wouldn't see why not. I mean, it can just randomly occur. Hmm. Yet Klaus Peter Stelzer, an evolutionary biologist at the University of Innsbruck, begs to differ. He points out that by weight, the genome of the marbled lungfish, Protopterus ethiopicus, could be 50% larger than those of its cousins. Only once it has been sequenced can the true animal genome champion be crowned. Okay, well, that was definitely a lot going over the genomes of these lungfish. That was interesting. So, do you want to put another one up? Oh no, these guys. Hmm? Oh, oh, okay. Well, let's take a look at what's going on here. Seems to be a wide variety of different occurrences that happened in 2025. So, from sciencenews.org, these are our favorite animal stories of 2025. Crafty cockadoos, extra shaggy mice, and spiders with lethal puke are among the creatures that amazed us. Well, that last one was a bit unexpected. From caterpillars disguised as the dead to narwhals that play with their food. Here are the animal tales that we loved in 2025. We got a lot of deranged stuff coming up. Killer vomit. Wow. Who is this hideous guy or woman? I don't know. Because many cases with female spiders, they tend to be larger than males. Question is like, why did this arachnid choose that path? Spiders are also more closely related to fleas, scorpions, and horseshoe crabs compared to insects. The spider, called a feather legged lace weaver, doesn't kill its prey by injecting venom with fangs as many spiders do. Instead, it weaves a tight silken shroud around living prey and then vomits toxic fluids from its digestive tract all over the little package.
That's terrible.
Wow.
Does it get it
Um,
does it get a towel at least?
oh, right. Yeah. Not an apron, but a
A bib?
handkerchief
Okay,
or
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. What a messy lunch. It kept pushing back. So most spiders slay their victims with venom. The feather-legged lace weaver pukes its guts out. Whoa, wait a second. Oh, okay, it's just a figure of speech, somewhat. To earn a hearty meal, Uloboris plumipes. Daphnia. That was the no, it just hit me. We were talking about like the lungfish and why were we bringing the other stuff up?
Because you said it could split and just copy itself.
Oh, right, the aphids and making clones. Yeah, so can possibly Daphnia. They're a little colorful. If you get in close pictures of it, very colorful micro freshwater organisms. Not somewhat micro. Let's see. But back to this spider. The lace weaver first wraps its catch into a thick silk bundle. Once the insect is secure, the spider slathers its dinner with toxins from tissues in its gut. The puke is powerful. The weaver's final blow is just as fatal as the venom of the common house spider. Huh. I don't know how potent the common house spider is. hidden hybrid. Oh, I've heard of this guy. I think we also saw him on another article way back. This Grue jay spotted in Texas is a hybrid of a green jay and a blue jay. And I think it's a mixture of like one species from some part of South Texas and another from Central Texas, possibly. Let's see. So this Grue jay is one strange bird. It has the face of a green jay, yet its tail is team blue jay, and it's called a raucous mixtape of honking and rattling. Resembles both. Hmm. Maybe I could see the honking, but maybe the rattling's coming from the green jay. I don't know how green jays sound. Evidently, the feathered oddity is a rare hybrid between the two songbirds. The tropical green jay, Cyanocorax incus, and the North American blue jay, Cyanocida cristata. I didn't realize that they actually belong to completely different genre, not just different species. Have been evolving separately for 7 million years. Okay, I haven't looked into the evolution of the jays. Wow. Um, that's since the late Miocene, like the last 2 million years, the Miocene epoch. So when like different species of large proboscidean elephant gomphotheres were roaming different parts of North and South America, different earlier species of hornless rhinos, and then a little later, like into the Pliocene, certain tusked rhinos. They had like curved tusks on on their bottom jaw and have more hippo-like lifestyle. But I'm also referring to certain species over in Africa, not North America. Early species of like saber-toothed cats. But it's climate change and oh come on. Okay, I'm gonna skip these two sentences, just propaganda. Let's see what else we have. So mischievous mealtime. So an aerial drone captures footage of narwhals following an Arctic char, which is an Arctic species of salmon. The whales prod, flip, and guide the fish with their tusks, possibly investigating and playing with it. Oh, oh yeah, there he is. He's right there. That's funny. Oh, they're actually trying to help the fish. It's like join your people. Your your salmon brothers are further up the stream or cape or whatever. Well, that was annoying. Just shows a picture of a or John Narwhal. Okay. Bunny is on the menu for narwhals, Monodon monocaris. The Arctic whales brandish their iconic tusks to poke, prod, and possibly play with their prey. It- oh, wait, they do eat the fish? Oh, never mind. Researchers captured the underwater unicorns apparently amusing themselves with soon to be appetizers. Gosh, yeah, that was not the little
It's
happy
like a
ending.
cat.
Yeah. Um, Jeez. Aerial video reveals narwhals softly swooshing their spiraled tooth against the bodies of Arctic chars, Savalinus alpinus, bumping the fish off course. They also flip the sea life. Researchers think it's for entertainment. Seems the whales may crave whimsy. Okay, well, s-
Before I chomp you, let's push you around.
yeah, basically. Jeez. Anyway, let's keep going. Now, noisy sharks. The small shark, called a rig or smoothhound, could be the first shark to document to make deliberate sounds. Oh yeah, I think yeah, I heard about this. It was one of the other first species of sharks to be recorded to have made some sort of a sound because most other sharks don't. And they tend to be deaf in many instances. They just simply don't have the need for being able to hear. Like they can feel vibrations, but that's a different form of hearing. In Peter Pan, a hungry crocodile swallows a clock that tick tick ticks. The rig shark Mustelus lenticulatus makes a similar noise, but with its teeth. Researchers accidentally eavesdropped on the shark making a strange clicking sound or clicking noise in New Zealand waters. The source of the sound comes from the shark clanking its rows of short white teeth together. The teeth look like dragon scales and are used most often to crack open crustaceans. It's the first time shark chatter has been caught on tape. Hmm. Also known as a smooth hound, this shark's bark may be more impressive than its bite. I mean, What's it feeding on again? Yeah, crustaceans. I don't know. You might want to be careful with that thing. Definitely is a powerful bite at that rate. So moving forward to a bird, this thirst quenching claws. Okay, it's actually being. I thought it was meaning like it was eating something and like referring to its blood, but no, no, no. It's literally just drinking water apparently. Sulfur crested cockatoos at a park in Western Sydney, or over in Australia, use coordinated twisting and leaning to turn open drinking fountains for a refreshing drink. I guess that's not too surprising. These are clever little guys. Australian cockatoos invented a new drinking culture. Streams are out, water fountains are in. On scorching days in Sydney, clever sulfur crested cockatoos, Cockatoo glarida, flock to local drinking fountains to slurp down fresh water. They clasp the side of the basin with one foot while expertly twisting the handle with the other. Then the birds lean to one side, activate the spout steady flow, and quickly snap upright to snag a sip. Surprisingly, there's no need for a bouncer at the popular watering hole. Parrots patiently wait up to 10 minutes for their turn to drink. Wow. They're kind of civilized. So that's um okay, I don't think it's exactly what's going on here. I guess they're sharing. Or he's just helping. So ranging roars, maybe something new going on with the like territorial roars of both male and female lions. So a lioness goes through her repertoire of roars as she walks a dirt road in Zimbabwe's Bubye Valley Conservancy. You can hear the newly identified intermediary roar in the middle of her vocalizations, in between her starting moans that escalate into a full throated sound in her final grunts. Yeah, it is interesting. They'll start like a certain moan very similar to the males, like they're marking the territory themselves. And sometimes you also have it where a female is leading a pride while they're still looking for a male or a coalition of males. The MGM lion is no stranger to Hollywood magic. Its film opening roar belongs to a tiger. In real life, African lions, Panthera leo, guttural groans aren't always showstoppers. They have a second intermediate roar. It's flatter and less flashy than their recognizable full throated roars. Researchers overlooked this subtle tone change for decades, but with the aid of artificial intelligence, a team has now decoded thousands of the big cat's calls, sorting them into distinct categories. Turns out the lions have a notable vocal range. Thousands of different types of calls. That's a new one. I knew they had a number of them, but that's a very high number. Okay, what is this? Deadly chick. A newly discovered caterpillar. Whoa. Weaves the remains of insect prey. Oh. Onto a protective case, several shown worn for camouflage, new study suggests. Well, I mean, I guess it's like putting a bunch of pelts on yourself, but that's still kind of weird. Um, Bones are the new black. A carnivorous caterpillar known as the bone collector arms itself with insects' body parts to sneak past spiders to raid their webs. The caterpillar yanks heads, legs, and wings from spiders' leftover meals. Then it fashions the remains into an outfit.
This is just brilliant.
Oh, yeah, I guess for Halloween, this would be pretty good. While dressed as the dead, the caterpillar goes incognito. It's scent masked as it steals bugs captured in the spider's web. I think it's also just dead insects, and
Is that hard to read without laughing?
I'm not sure if it's laughing or just overall shock. So I guess it's a
It's like The
shock laugh.
Walking Dead where they cover themselves in the guts of the dead.
Yeah, it's different. But yeah, you could say so. Okay, this thing I remember seeing this. I guess it happened earlier last year. They were trying to make some sort of a like woolly mammoth version of a mouse, but at least when it comes to the fur, it really just looks like one you stuck in some water and then just using the hair dryer. That's what it looks like. Um, Stuart Little could relate. Woolly mice, cute, yes, but is this woolly mouse really a step towards bringing woolly mammoths back? Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know what specific species it is, but I wouldn't call this a major accomplishment. Though I think they changed something with the pigment. This mouse is so woolly mammoth coated, literally. Scientists edited 7 genes to give mice thick, shaggy fur resembling that of a woolly mammoth. And we also have a certain breed of rabbit that kind of looks like that. Maybe it's the Rex or whatever. The team also tinkered with traits, also even dogs, so that the mouse became more resilient to frigid conditions.
Why do they think this is a good idea?
I don't understand it. Some say it's a big step in the effort to resurrect the mammoth, but there's still a long way to go before the giant woolies walk among us. Well, that's interesting, considering every single year it's like, oh, they're coming out next year. They're coming back in 2020, not even 2024, like it was back in the 2010s or beforehand. Let's see. Okay, it doesn't even say anything else about the mice. And that's it. Ish. Okay. Well, we're going to give everybody a minute to put anything into the comments.
Akita Bear and Kick said, "Could you recap the ammonites?"
Yeah, so I think going back to them, so they seem to have first evolved during the late Devonian, about 380 million years ago. And at that time, you had like different species of armored fish, like the placoderms, such as Dunkleosteus, that might have fed on them at that point. They were also possibly very small at the time, too. We have different species of ammonites that range from the size of tractor tires to barely the size of your pinky nail. Now, this is not an ammonite, but it is a distant relative, the nautilus. And it's also not even very common today either. But they were very similar to the ammonites, at least when it came to their feeding behavior, just having smaller tentacles overall to compare to their body size. So these are cephalopods, so close relatives of squid, and were one of the main prey sources for different species. Oh yeah, that's a good specimen from probably some part of England. I mean, many species of ammonites come from the shores of the British Isles, especially different Jurassic fossil basins and different marine deposits, different parts of North America or the United States as well. Over in Canada too, like different parts of British Columbia, where we even find different remains of different species of ichthyosaurs, pliosaurs, and plesiosaurs in the area too, also dating to the Jurassic and sometimes Cretaceous periods. He just seems to be submerged on the seabed. I'm not sure if this would actually have occurred unless maybe the animal just perished. It's an interesting model. I think there's another one towards the side of him, unless that's a crab eating the dead ammonite. Oh, that's in inches, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
that thing looks huge.
yeah, that's massive. I mean, I guess it's
I thought for a second they just laid that over in the picture, but there's a, shadow.
yeah, strange. You mean you also had it where certain species of ammonites were quite spiky in their overall complexion, and some were quite smooth or slight ridges. And then you had the different species of ammonites, which would have a more orthocone or a straight sort of a shell. Also, like in some instances, they might have been slightly curled towards the end and just feeding on like the different species of plankton in the area. Ichthyosaurs would, like, during the Jurassic, Triassic periods, even the early Cretaceous would have been on these animals. Like, they would consist of a major part of their diets outside of, like, other species of smaller fish. I'm referring to the dolphin-like marine reptiles. Oh, yeah, and this is due to, like, the reason for this type of a coloration on this ammonite shell is the different types of minerals that it would have come into contact with during fossilization. So, yeah, there are a wide variety of different types of color variations that have been found on different not just specimens of the same ammonites, but different species of ammonites, really coming from the Cretaceous period. It does occur from the Jurassic and beforehand, but it's quite rare, or at least it's just not as common as different, like especially late Cretaceous deposits. Also, in many instances, when it comes to the different sections of the ammonites, tends to tell us how specifically old the animal is as well. Oh yeah, this is a good illustration of different species that have been discovered. Just the different designs. I mean, it's a really big mystery as to why the Ammonites decided to create um this large amount of just different types of shapes, textures. This might be replicating like a certain area with just several chipped ammonites in a
Not
certain region.
replicating it.
Oh, it's all connected. I thought it was, spliced up into different images. Wow, just shows you how common they were. Question is also, why did certain mass die-offs occur, not just, like, during the end of the Cretaceous period or different parts of the Mesozoic and beforehand, like, into the late Proterozoic? Oh, yeah, this is a very wow, it's almost golden inside of that ammonite. And this yeah, this looks like a certain Jurassic sort of a, combination or just overall section of the ammonite area. I'm guessing like some of these species are probably like these certain individuals that are not much larger than your fingernail, and other species maybe like the size of your fist, slightly larger. Almost look like cookies sometimes. Um, oh yeah, I mean he's got a nice like golden amber sort of a look. Okay, so thanks for joining. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. Happy International Ammonite Day. And remember, nothing is better than all animals all the time.